Welcome to Vote 2020 Beyond the Podium. I'm Matt Lincoln.
And I'm Jay O'Brien, here in another box on the screen from Matt.
We're very close to each other.
We are in the same room, but for social distancing reasons. Yeah.
And we're very lucky to be joined by Brian Norton. He is the Republican up for State Senate District 29. Mr. Norton, thank you so much for taking the time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.
I read another interview that you did that said that you said you are not a politician. Well, I hate to break it to you, but you're running for office. People are going to vote for you, and you're doing a political interview right now. So can you tell me, sort of what being a politician means to you and why you're in this race?
Well, yeah. So what I meant by that is I'm running to be a legislator, right? And I'm coming from, we'll call it the other side, the voter side, where every so often you picked your head up, you listened to who was out there, you voted, you put your head back down, you focus on yourself, your family, your job, your community, and that's how it's supposed to work. And that's how I want to get things back to. And really where I'm looking to make the biggest difference is not being a partisan politician, right? Not being somebody who is just sticking to one side or another, because I believe, especially in times like these, we have to be working together to get real solutions that last so that people can get back to normal.
Are you going to be able to make that work, though, Mr. Norton? I think when you go to Tallahassee, when you go to a state house, everybody says that, but then you walk through the doors of a state house and partisan politics smacks you in the face. Can you keep that promise?
Well, I believe you can. I believe it takes people that are willing to try. I don't think it's going to be easy, but I know that it's possible. Like, for example, I'm a Republican. I'm married to a Democrat. We're happily married. There's many things that we agree on. There's many things we disagree on. But when you take the time to talk with somebody instead of at somebody and shutting them down, you actually get the benefit of their perspective and understanding, hey, they grew up in a different environment. They have different experiences than I do. That's okay. And I see the philosophy of government is really finding that balance between all different sides. And if you're willing to take the time and you're willing to try, I think we can come to some great consensus on many things. In fact, I think many Americans, are probably right there in the middle where I felt like I was. And it's really the parties that have gone more to the extremes. So that's kind of what I'm looking to bring back to Tallahassee, is just a little bit more civility and say, hey, look, I'm here to get things done. I'm not here to get a name for myself or to put my name in the news. It's just about getting things done so that we can all get back to normal.
Mr. Norton, you're saying you're coming from the other side. You were owned a landscaping company, had 30 employees for that. You then sold it back in 2018. So I guess my question now is, you're a business consultant. Mm-hmm. For people that might not know what a business consultant does, what is your day-to-day?
So I'm like you said, I had a landscaping company. I started that in 2011 after I moved down to South Florida. Before that, I was in the IT industry. And essentially, a business consultant is somebody that, for me, it was somebody that you identify other business people that have opportunity but just don't know how to execute as well. So right now I'm working with a company up in Jupiter, Florida. They were an R&D company. They grew and innovated ways of growing microalgae for aquaculture and other industries. And we're helping them convert from R&D into a manufacturing type environment, right? So helping them make that transition, in a skill set that they didn't have. So, where I specialize is we're taking something that's unknown and putting processes in order around it. Just like I did coming from IT into landscaping, I had to figure it all out and did that pretty quickly. That's just where I excel.
Before you were there, you got your business degree from UPenn, and before that, you went to North Carolina, Chapel Hill. Big Heels fan, I assume, big college hoops fan. You studied religious studies there. I was curious, what did you want to do when you went to UNC?
Well, the funny thing is I didn't know what I wanted to do, right? And I'm guessing that's how many people felt my age and still do today. You're told, oh, go to college, right? I literally applied at the very last minute because I said, hey, what are you guys doing when you graduate? They said, we're going to Chapel Hill. I'm like, all right, I'll go too, right? I mean, that's kind of how it was. So went there, was kind of undecided in the beginning, looked at a couple different things, and I I got advice from my uncle before I went to college, and he said, look, if you don't know what you want to do, after college, be educated in something you want to be educated in. And for me, that's something that was very important to me. I grew up in North Carolina, in middle school and high school. And I always had a lot of questions. Why do we think what we think? Why do we believe what we believe? How did we get here? And it really, was a way of, expanding, the information that I didn't have from before, and just getting a better perspective on it as a whole. But it really enabled me to kind of approach any situation with an open mind, right? Because in religion, oftentimes there's not a right answer or a wrong answer. It's how well you can present your case. It's how well you can articulate what you're thinking and what you believe. And it enables you to take in what other people believe and use it and gain the benefit of their perspective.
A major in going to the Dean Dome, right? And going to He's Not Here. Isn't that one of those bars down there in Chapel Hill? It's a good spot. Yeah, when you go to your Facebook page or your website, we see a lot of your family. 3 girls, right? What are their names and ages?
2 girls and a boy.
2 girls and a boy. What are their names and ages?
Anya, she's 10, Katerina is 7, and Gabriel is 6.
Congratulations on having a beautiful family. I've got 2 twins myself, and I was sort of thinking, do they understand sort of what you're going through right now in a political race?
They know kind of what's going on, right? They know that I'm running for the state Senate. I don't think they really know what that means, right? But they're excited. They're out there helping me door knock, right? So they're excited about it. They like to help out, and they think it's fun.
I have an interesting question. With the pandemic going on, and you're trying to go around knocking on doors and meeting people, what kind of reaction do you get when people open those doors? Are they less likely to want to meet someone at their front door?
I mean, we've seen many different reactions, but most of it, I'd say a majority of it, is all positive, right? We knock on the door, we're all wearing masks. We take a couple steps back so you can clearly see us. And we maintain that social distance even with our masks on. And we just basically introduce ourselves and say who we are and what we're doing there, and ask them if they have any questions. And some people engage, some people don't, but a lot of people, are very positive about it. And I think that's because, they see what we're doing as beneficial to our community.
I run half marathons, and a lot of times when you're running a marathon, you start just kind of telling yourself things just to sort of keep you going. And one of the things I always tell myself is, what would I tell my kids if I quit? And I've got to make sure that their dad is, make them proud, and everything like that. Have you thought about what you would tell your children if you don't win this race?
No, I mean, I would probably tell them the same thing that I would tell them if they didn't win something. It's not, sometimes it's not about winning or losing. It's about going through the motions. I used to tell my employees this all the time. We do the things that are hard, not for the end result. I mean, that's great, but it's for what it will make of us when we get there, right? I tell my kids all the time, because I make them do Kumon, which is extra homework essentially, and they don't like it, but it's to make them better. And eventually, they start to pick up on it and they learn it. And it's like, hey, it's not just about getting this one thing done. It's about what it makes of you to have achieved it. So, that's the example I'm trying to set is, you pick the things that are hard because you want to become a better person.
I love that. Jay?
Yeah. What's the biggest policy disagreement between you and Representative Polsky, do you think?
Well, I'll just go off of what I saw in the primary between Representative Polsky and Ernst Lossberg. And for me, it's basically, the fact that I'm trying to come at this from the middle. I'm trying to, unite people who are Democrats, people who are Republicans, and people who are independent. And what I heard from her was very much, hey, I'm a Democrat. I'm going to stick with the Democrat. The Republicans aren't going to pick me off. So I don't look at politics that way. I look at it as our job is to do what needs to be done so that people like yourselves and like me, frankly, can live our normal lives, can live our best lives and pursue happiness, however we may see fit.
What's in the middle about you then in terms of your political ideology? Are there things that you are conservative about and things that you're liberal about? I mean, what are those policies where you're on both sides of the spectrum?
So yeah, so for example, when it comes to healthcare, right? I'm a strong believer that healthcare is essential need of the people, right? But the way that we're going about it and the drive for excessive government control over healthcare, I think is the wrong solution. Where, and this is where I kind of span the middle, is like we've got to start to tackle these healthcare problems, like, a prescription medication, even going to the doctor, having to wait months upon months to get an appointment is unrealistic. And just putting more money in the system isn't going to fix it. You've got to simplify the system. You've got to rebuild that doctor-patient relationship and frankly, get all the extra hands that are in the cookie jar out, right? So that's kind of where, when I talk to people, everybody agrees, everybody sees that. And it also comes down to being realistic when it comes to school safety and keeping our kids safe in school. I have 3 kids. I want them to be safe in school. But at the same time, I also want their education to be better. Right now, I see their education a lot of times is teaching to the test and passing these standardized tests that I don't think add much value to them in their education. Instead, it just teaches them to do this one thing instead of teaching them how to learn and love learning. One of the big issues where I'm passionate about is adding, funding for vocational exposure and life skills, because I see the role of education is to instill a lifelong love of learning and to prepare our children for adulthood. So, and I think those are the type of issues and the approaches that are pretty moderate, pretty centrist when it comes to the people. Everybody just wants things to work and work the right way.
Does school safety for you mean gun control?
Well, it does to a certain extent, right? It means that we have to be smart and we have to be responsible with it, right? But we also have to be realistic and pragmatic, knowing what's going to work and what's not going to work.
I mean, what does that mean? Does that mean high capacity magazine bans? Does that mean an assault weapons ban? What do you mean by that?
Well, frankly, what I mean by that is making sure that those that have firearms are responsible with them, right? I talk to people who have them all the time. They maintain their weaponry, they practice with it, they go through trainings, and it's making sure that those that have that.
Do you like the sounds of The Price is Right going on around you, Mr. Norton? We're here in our CBS 12 studio, and The Price is Right has just ticked on around us. So forgive me, but
yeah, I actually hear an echo from Matt through you.
Right. Do me a favor, restart your thought for us on what I'm hearing from you. Then is that you're for responsible gun ownership, but you're not necessarily for further controlling of firearms. Is that an accurate understanding?
Well, to further controlling on a very limited basis, right? And this is where the nuance is very important, right? And I don't think that broad sweeping statements or acts do accomplish the intended effect, right? So, for example, I'm more concerned about getting real results. Like if we look at what happened in the district in Parkland just 2 years ago, right? There was a whole list of systemic issues that failed, right? That failed not only the shooter, but failed the students, that failed the community. And focusing on just one aspect of it doesn't fix the problem. We have got to start to look at the system as a whole and say, hey, why did it fail here, 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 and here? How do we prevent that from happening? How do we make it better so it doesn't happen again? And that's where I'm not focused on, just one aspect of it. I'm looking at it from a holistic perspective and saying, what can we do better all the way around?
What have been your thoughts on Governor DeSantis's handling of the coronavirus pandemic, both the pandemic itself, but then the significant economic fallout of it?
Sure. I have to say, I don't envy the governor, right? It's a situation that nobody was prepared for, nobody wanted to be in. And I think he's done a fair job, right? He's trying to balance, keeping people safe from COVID while at the same time, preserving our way of life, keeping the economy going. Because if you lean too far in any one direction, more people die, right? You go too heavy on keeping people safe from COVID, people lose their houses, you have issues of economic despair, you're gonna have mass unemployment, all these other issues. And if you go the opposite direction, you're gonna have a lot of people dying of COVID. And that's where I thought he did a very well job of making sure those that were most significantly affected, like in nursing homes, he took action there first, right? And the goal from the very beginning was to flatten the curve, right? To maintain maintain control of the spread of the virus, right? It's not practical to get it down to zero, just like with anything else, auto accidents, anything else, but it's maintaining it to a manageable, acceptable level, right?
You're walking a very middle of the road line with a lot of your policy work. It's clear in talking to you. The question I have for you is, in the Republican Party now, at the state level, certainly the national level, and definitely in the hyperlocal level, there are a lot of people who are very further to the right than you and vocal about it. And in some instances, they are the standard bearers for parts of the party, right? They're nominees in certain districts, et cetera, et cetera. As a Republican, do you lament that the louder voices are perhaps those who are much further to the right than you?
Not necessarily, because one of the things that I believe is, people are generally right from their own perspective, right? And what that means is if you tell me you believe something, I'm going to take you at your word that you believe it. And it's up to us to kind of find ways to work together to get things done. Like one of my goals, should I be elected, is to kind of help make the Republican Party the party that delivers results, that just gets things done, right? Because that's what government is there for. One of the things that I'm hoping to do is to de-escalate, situations, say, hey, look, you have this perspective, they have that perspective. We all agree on this 90% in the middle, yet we're talking and focusing on this other 10% at the extremes that we don't disagree. Let's take care of this 90% in the middle first, and let's see where it goes. Sometimes, I found out in business and in life and family that when you tackle those things right in the middle, sometimes those things in the end take care of themselves. They go away. And that's kind of what I'm hoping to bring.
We need you to mediate some policy disagreements between Matt and I then, because
Sure.
you seem like a professional mediator.
Well, I love playing devil's advocate. So, you tell me your position and I'll respond with the opposite, because at the end of the day, it allows me to see a different angle of what it actually is, right? What the truth is, from your perspective, from my perspective. And the more you engage with somebody, the more you kind of find out, well, where's our disagreement? And sometimes it's very small. It's just, well, I think this is slightly more important than that, and that's why we have to do this. And that's okay, right? There are times where safety is more important than liberty, right? We saw that after 9/11, right? We had to shut down the airports, and we've gone through this whole improvement, and now safety has kind of come down a little. I don't want to say it's back down, but it's become more normalized. It's become easier, less infringement, but you have to, there's a give and take, and during certain times of our lives, different times in history, the pendulum swings in different directions, and you have to always be mindful of that. I used to say all the time, what was best for yesterday may not be best for today, and what's best for today may not be best for tomorrow. And all that means is things change, and you've got to adapt, and you've got to improve, right? If you're constantly working to better yourself every single day and trying to make yourself the best that you can be, I think you're going to add more value than just kind of sticking to your guns or, kind of holding a position that isn't going anywhere.
I think Matt has to put his makeup on now for the noon broadcast. Is that right?
I've got one more for you, Mr. Norton, and this is this. I'm sure you're not the only successful person out there that hasn't liked what they've seen in Tallahassee or doesn't like what they see in the political discourse. But you've decided to race. Is there something about this process that was not what you expected?
Well, I'll be honest. I'd never donated to a political campaign before. I wasn't politically active before this race. I got involved after 2018. Basically, I went to the party and I said, "What's going on, guys? I got nobody to vote for, down ballot, right? You have people at top, but if we believe in what we're talking about, what's going on, right?" I understand a Republican in Palm Beach County is not going to be the same as a Republican, let's say in the Treasure Coast, right, or further north or in more rural areas. But that's okay, right? Our fundamental values, our life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, is keeping things simple. And for myself, I think that the biggest thing I've learned is, and I'll tell everybody this, it's not as hard as you think to run for office, right? It was 3 documents and a check, essentially. The hard part is, just like anything else in life, is making yourself do what you need to do on a daily basis. And I'm sure the same thing for your job. There's always days when you get up and you're like, I don't feel like doing it, but you force yourself to do it because it's what makes you better, right?
That was today.
Yeah.
That was today. Yeah. I'm just kidding. We wanted to talk to you very much.
Sure, no, I appreciate it. Yeah. No, but you know, I mean, you know what I mean. You know, there are days that you run half marathons, right? I'm sure there are days where you just don't want to, but you got to force yourself to do it. And it's about making yourself better in the end.
Ms. Norton, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Have a great day.